Yeet Fighter is for sale. I know I keep saying it all the time. Anybody catching my videos, contact me. Give me a shout out, email me, and I'll sell you a bin file. You can put it in your Harmony cart, your Uno cart. You can put it wherever to play Yeet Fighter. It's a one-of-a-kind Street Fighter style game for the Atari 2600. There is nothing else like it. You're never going to see graphics like this. You're not going to have gameplay like this on a 2600. Gotcha. I'm playing with a keyboard. Forgive me. I recommend playing this game with a Sega pad though. It plays better with a thumb pad than an Atari joystick. It is a one-button game though. Got me. Whoa! They're being merciless to me. But yeah, I may make a sequel to this game one of these days too. And just try to make it that much better. So, give Yeet Fighter a chance. Send me an email if you want the game. I'm a scholar. People like me. Wow, do I have a lot done in this game. It's been, I think, over a week now since my last update on this game, and a lot has happened. Now the moves and the way they work in this game are kind of unique. Well, they're a little like Yeet Fighter, but they're unique, more trapped, I guess is a way to put it. But just to put it simply, when you are moving around in this video game and grappling, like locking arms with the other wrestler, that's going to open the door for different moves. So the way I've set things up is lots of different factors come into play with how the character will react. And so let's see, get my notes ready here. Certain things have to be taken into account. Whether the wrestler is grappling, whether they're running, whether they're on the turnbuckle, whether they have fallen down, whether they're stunned, whether they're outside the ring, or whether they're near the ropes, whether they're close to the other opponent, stuff like that. So we have to take a lot of things into account. So I've started the loops that program the moves. Now, I'm programming everything in versus mode first. And that's so that when I do story mode, I'll be, based on which wrestler you pick, clipping off the controls for one or the other. So suppose you choose story mode for a character that would use the right side joystick. Well, on story mode, everything uses the left side joystick. So, but then the moves will have to be calculated from that point outward. So the first thing you do is make all of the moves and animation and everything for 2 players, and then you can kind of stack them and have your random number generator deal with the moves for whichever side you're not, right? So first thing we'll do is start the versus mode. Now you can go through here, see I'm going through the characters. This is if I were choosing, single player mode. But I'm going to go ahead and press the second player fire button. And as we can see, one of the first changes is it says versus mode, VS, in the middle of the screen. That's to indicate that you have chosen versus mode, right? Okay, actually I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know, let's see what actually is going to happen here. Okay, so we've got this character here. This is our entrance phase. Now I may go ahead and change, customize the entrances. This is your basic cereal box entrance. They walk towards the crowd, they raise their arms, the crowd starts flipping out, and then the next wrestler comes out, does the same thing, then they're in the ring. So we've got the ring, we've got the signs moving, we've got the 2 wrestlers facing each other. So the wrestlers can move around, right? Okay, here we go. Now if the wrestler hits the ropes, now they rebound off and they run. And as you could see there, they ran into each other. Now I'm working on a couple of tiny little mess-ups that can happen occasionally if the math misses the collision where the 2 sprites will overlap, but it's almost worked completely out. Okay, so then they can run into each other. Now they can grapple, as you can see. They're grappling with each other. And when they grapple, then one can throw the other one into the ropes. As you can see, they're running into each other. Let's see the other guy. Okay. Now during this running phase, the character that is not being tossed into the rope or that is currently running can still move around. So I'll show that real quick. I've got the guy moving around. He's going to toss the guy. Now see, I'm moving away. Okay. Now, sometimes the timer, there we go, catches up with it for both of them bouncing. So if I back him up and bounce, then bounce this guy, see it stopped there. So that's something I need to work on, is so when they both bounce off the rope, the timer resets. As you can see there, it took a while for it to kick in. So if I do that here, as you can see, that time it worked. So it's something to do with resetting the timer for the other player. Now they can also grapple and then do a body slam, as you could just see there. And the body slam move uses a direction plus the button. So we've worked the button into it now. So you can see the characters are now somewhat interactive. Now once they grapple, this is when you can do some moves. You can do whatever moves are tied to grappling for the character, and I can decide to kind of customize and tweak that so it's based on the character that you've picked. So I can have your typical moves, move set, perhaps suplex, body slam, things like that, but then also have a special move that is different. Okay, there we go. That's that problem where the math was wrong. Okay, so I am working that out. So I'll go ahead and pick a couple of different characters here. There we go. So here they're coming at each other and grapple. So we have moves programmed. So much has happened now, and this is giving me a chance to look at the characters and see how they react. Now, the way the reflection takes place now has to be changed. So before, the reflections were all the time. If one character, if they cross each other's paths and change sides, then they automatically face each other. But that's not what you want if you grab them and throw them into the ropes. So suppose this guy comes up to grab this other guy and he throws him into the ropes. Well, now see, that guy faces away while he's going towards the ropes, but then turns and faces towards you when he's running towards you. So when I body slam the guy, I want him to keep facing that direction. Okay, so little things like that have to be changed. This isn't perfect yet. There's still little things that need to be worked out. Okay, and so now I just for fun can go ahead and cycle through some of the characters to get an idea of what they might look like, and again, programming in versus mode, so hitting versus and then choosing some different characters just to try them out for fun, to get an idea of what they look like. Is fun for testing. Now this is still in the very beginning of the game and how it's going to work and everything. It's the very beginning of interactivity. Sounds like right when I started recording, someone decided to have a donut sale down the street, because it sounds like every cop and ambulance in the city is all out right now. Okay, so here's another thing. I've set it up so that if they stand up really close to the ropes after a body slam or a collision, they will automatically be put where they're not hitting the ropes. So that guy is right where he could be hitting the ropes, see? And he can hit the ropes over and over. You can intentionally go back and bounce off the ropes, like so. I may actually take the speed of the wrestler into account and might end up with some fast or slow wrestlers, and then how they run will change based on that. My goal is to have a unique part with every wrestler. So when you pick a wrestler, there's something different about them from any other wrestler. So you're not just picking a cool looking color scheme, but rather how they react and the way they behave is different based on who you choose. So we're going to get into some of the more boring but pertinent aspects of how this is working. Just for, in case anybody watches this and they want to get ideas of how they can do something like this and maybe learn while I'm learning and trying out new methods as this goes on. Now, to address a subject directly related to Visual Batari BASIC, do I think that Visual Batari BASIC is a better programming environment than assembly? Of course not. But you can do arguably more creative things because you're given a limited tool set. And so, as I've said in previous videos, it's very much like if you give somebody 1,000 crayons to use to make a picture, then you get a pretty good looking picture. But then if you say, okay, do that in 16 crayons, then you end up with a masterpiece because they were limited and it made their creative juices flow. It made them have to address the limitations. And I really love how that works with Visual Batari BASIC. The limitations inspire me. The quad pixels that are really chunky, blocky, but they use less space. The presets with the standard kernel and with the multi-sprite kernel. I would not recommend cookie cutter Atari games from anyone, because that's really truly been beat to death. If you're going to use your simple Atari out of the box layouts and not try to do something new like what I'm doing, then you might end up going, hey, this sucks, I don't like it as much as whatever. So if you're an assembly programmer, I would recommend you to try to do methods like what I'm doing, where you can layer graphics to get 3-color sprites or 3-color backgrounds. What I'm doing is unique, and other people don't use this method. It raises some problems. For instance, when you're using 2 draw screens and 2 play fields, there is an empty space where nothing's happening. Okay, so it's almost like everything's happening at half the speed, as if you were using just one draw screen. Sometimes it's like that. It depends on how you've set your game up. There can be problems with color. Sometimes the colors will flash or flicker if there's too much of a difference in the colors, or if where they're laid out is in certain spots. You'll get kind of effects from what I'm doing. Also, certain flashback systems won't play these types of games properly because they don't play a clean 60 frames a second image like a CRT television. When you're using an emulator, certain modern takes on Stella need the phosphor effect to be turned on, which essentially just makes it go 60 frames a second the way it's supposed to. It's basically like almost like a vertical sync mixed with a TV filter kind of look that makes the game look the way it's supposed to. Now, I'm pretty sure that was automatic in earlier versions of Stella, and Stella had a near 100% or 100% compatibility rate and played well. So why anyone changed that when it was already great, I don't know. Changing it, I think, was a bad idea. But I'm sure they have the reasons. Anyway, not to delve too deeply in those types of things, my point here is that if somebody buys into the idea that without using special methods like what I'm doing, or without trying new creative things that have never been done before with Visual Batari BASIC, can you make a better game than if you were using assembly or whatever? Probably not, because there are intentional limitations set in this environment. So, but you can make great games. Everything is gameplay. Everything is gameplay no matter what, right? If the game looks better than any other game that's ever been made, sounds better than any other game that's ever been made, but the gameplay sucks, then the game sucks. And if the game doesn't look that great, and doesn't sound that great, but the gameplay is so good that you just can't put it down, then the game doesn't suck. I'm sure a lot of Specky worshippers out there are believing things like that, because the Spectrum crowd is so hardcore, you'd think that they were nuts. If you look at a Spectrum game, you're like, the colors overlap, the screens look like crap, it's either single color with lots of stuff going on, or there's some color but it all overlaps and looks like crap. But then it must be playing great. It must have something going on there that attracts them to it. So people out there who think that I am, you know, wrong or foolish or foolhardy or stupid for doing this, well, fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That's cool and everything. But this is my 4th game that I'm working on. I have 3 completed games. In my opinion, they all play well. They're some of my favorite games to play on the Atari, and it's not just because I made them. If they weren't fun to play, I wouldn't play them. So I can say, being a gamer, I play Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, and when I play Yeet Fighter, it's like, with the right controller, on a TV with real hardware, I'm like, wow, this is like playing Street Fighter on my Atari. That's what the game actually is. When I play Titan Axe, once you learn how to control the game the way it's meant to be played, it's a really fun game. It's a huge video game with a lot to explore and a lot to do. In essence, it is, you know, move right and fight game. It's move right and fight. So if you don't like that, well, there's a lot of games that are like that. Kung Fu, Vigilante, Double Dragon might be seen like that. There are a lot of games out there like that, right? So now, am I happy with, you know, how people have responded? To a degree I am. I didn't expect a massive amount of response to my video games. But, you know, if people want it and give it a try and they're happy with it, that's great. I'm really glad. If they don't like it, you know, that's their opinion. That's cool. We're dealing with a crowd of people who like single color sprite Frogger, you know, or Pac-Man or Asteroids, and then, you know, if it's like, I don't know, if it's like someone who only eats plain oatmeal and you try to throw some blueberries and brown sugar in there and they're throwing a fit. Really, what can I do? If there's no way to please them, there's no way to please them. So anyway, in the case of this game, I'm going to run through the code. We're going to start. I've got my multi-sprite up here. That's telling you it's using 6 different sprites. Sprite 0 being the first sprite of the game, Sprite 1, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 all being copies of Sprite 1. A mirrored playfield with an adjustable line width, a resolution, if you will, and a grouping of alphabet variables. Now, I've got dimensionals for the score so that the score can be read or modified in segments, and that might be something I omit later if I decide it's not necessary. Okay, so down at the bottom, levels. These levels, each of them, is based on what game you've chosen. So L0 is your starting screen. It's ring E. It's where you begin to choose characters. L1 will be you in the ring after the first segments with the intros have happened. L2 will be if you're the ring and it's a versus mode game. L3 and 4 will be going to ring E, depending on what side of the ring and whether it's versus or not. L5 and L6 also going to ring E, that's outside the ring, based on whether it is the left side or the right side, and whether it is a single player game or it's versus mode. And we've got L7. I don't know if the aliens landed or what. We've got every siren in the city going every which way. There goes another one. So, My money's on donut sale though. I think there's a donut shop down there around where they're going. Levels. Okay, so ring A, the first place you're going to go. We have a PF height set up. That's the width of each row. 7 is the lowest I would comfortably use. It's great big chunks. You can have a higher number which creates wider blocks. The color for the background, color for the playfield. Player 2 color, player 3 color, these are components of the background. A playfield bar, this is a colored bar on the right and left side of the screen. Player 3 variable coordinate. The score color matches the background color, making the score invisible. A counter timer, which is A, and a random number generator that's constantly incrementing. We have A working up. If it's less than 28 and the random number generator is greater than 240, then A will equal 28 and player 2 will equal the Y coordinate 83, and then we have a counter here, C1, C2, C3, and C4. These are beginning Y locations for the signs. Okay, now down here 1, 2, 3, and 4 have X locations. Then we have variables are based on the timer for player 2 to either move up or move down, and that is the shaking effect of the signs. We have the graphics for the signs, and those are made by having a left half put up on the screen and then a right half put up on the screen next to it. So this is the left half of the screen. If I go past it down here, way down here, into the next loop after ring B, this is the other side of the sign, which is put right up next to it. Now when I show this video game, on this camera, you'll see those signs kind of separated. Like the left half will pop up and then the right half. The truth is, on a normal television or on a fine-tuned emulator, faster computers, things that are playing Atari games the speed they're supposed to be played to be properly emulated, unlike flashbacks or flashback handhelds, the signs don't do that, or they do it so little that it's barely noticeable. Your eye doesn't see it happen. But because the sync rate between the camera and my screen is different, you might see the screen show that sign left first then right really quickly. That's not how it is. It actually appears and then it looks like it's moving up and down. Okay? So, and that's because the Y coordinate is not changed in between play screens or draw screens. It's the same. We'll rewind it a little bit in case you saw this massive block of code. This massive block of code was adjusted to match the higher numbers of the A variable so that the A variable could be used for both the referee and the signs moving. So this really is very redundant and it will be changed later. But for now, it has to be that way to address whether the referee is moving from left to right or from right to left. And that's what each of these is. The A increments, and E is the direction that the ref is facing and also what direction he's moving. The reflection bit that shows that his body is changing. Now in this case, the reflection bit does not directly relate to what direction he's walking. It actually is what's animating the referee. So the referee's normal sprite has one foot up and the other foot down, one arm down and the other one up a little bit. And so when the sprite is mirrored, it looks like he's taking a step. And that mirroring is happening here. That's why it says new size 331. This is actually the reflect bit in the multi-sprite kernel. In the standard kernel, it would be REFP1, either 8 or 0. And that would reflect it. But because this is the multi-sprite kernel, I'm using the third bit of the new size register. So new size 3, third bit is either off or on. A bit is like a light switch. It's either off or it's on. So as it's going through here, the referee is being told to move. Now what I'll likely do later is, because these are always increments of either +3 or -3, I will just have it be that if A or if E is 1, then new size 3, 1, B -3, and I'll change it back and forth. I'll probably turn one of these huge chunks into 2 lines of code. Okay, so that'll make it a heck of a lot easier and take up less room. Okay. And we have the changing of A to balance it out, to restart that variable as a timer. Then we have the first grab for wrestler graphics. The wrestlers are all starting in bank 2 for wrestler 1A. Wrestler 1A directly links to the second wrestler. Both of the graphics for them are grabbed in one Go sub, and whether they're reflected or not is determined in code then. So player 3 is not a wrestler. This is screen graphics. Here's our play field. This is mirrored. So even though this is 16 pixels wide, it mirrors to become, 16 sections wide. It mirrors to become 32 sections wide when it's on the screen. Now we have ring B. It's after the first draw screen. So draw screen dumps all the information up on the screen. Hopefully you got there before the screen started blanking, and otherwise you're getting jitters and jumping and stuff like that. As I said before, if I can trick this game into jittering just right when the wrestlers do moves, then that's a free special effect. I won't complain, and I certainly wouldn't change it. What I don't want is the screen jumping and jittering under normal gameplay. So we'll see. I don't think it is, though. Usually you can see subtle signs of it in emulation, but the only way to know is to try it on real hardware. And so people out there are making these games and they never test it on real hardware, they might be upset when they find out that their game is jumping and rolling and jittering and flickering and stuff all the time once it's shown on a real system. So the emulator is very forgiving, looks good, can be tweaked and adjusted for things like that. TVs are all different, they're all different brightnesses, they're all different color balances, and the systems all have different color kind of setups. It's just really a very random situation. So there's the second playfield. This is a very large playfield, an 88-row playfield. The largest that you can get with the multi-sprite kernel. And that's so that everything, the ropes are nice and thin, the crowd is a thin grouping of blocks, the lettering is nice and thin. It's what's giving me that nice look in the ring where the background looks good. Okay, then we have if L equals 2, that's versus mode, go to versus control, bank 6, or go to control, bank 5. So if this L2 is actually L1, then once it looks and reaches if L2, this is negative, it skips right past this line, go to controls, bank 5. So I don't need this to say if L equals 1, go to controls, bank 5. That just makes it harder to deal with. And that's part of eliminating code that isn't necessary. Later on, I'll be going through this piece by piece, fine-tooth comb, getting rid of any code that isn't necessary. Are there steps you can take to make it even smaller, take up even less space? Yes, but many of those steps will not make the code run faster. I've read that you want to pad your code with space. If you notice, another thing you might notice is when I do my code, everything is spaced out. So notice here if L3 and then there's a space. If L5 then there's a space. If L6 then there's a space. That is for a few reasons. It makes it easier for me to look at, but also padding the code makes it run better in this particular system. So it's not hurting. I'm not imitating C, I'm not truncating, I'm not, bracketing or anything crazy like that. This is just how I'm doing the code. Later on, if I want to, for whatever reason, I can go ahead and delete every line in between everything, and it all can be as far left as it can possibly be, one space, for instructions, to the left for labels, and just have it run like a straight line from top to bottom. That's fine. If you want to try to do that, that's cool. But I space everything out for a couple of good reasons. Okay, ring E. We have L3 and L4, L3 or L4, L5 or L0. These are all modes of the game. Okay, L6 and L7, I believe, directly relate to belt wearing. If the character is wearing a belt, so that the belt graphic will be over the character's body. So some of these are not going to be used much. S2 and 3, yeah, S2 and 1, S3 and N1, those are directly related to things going on from the move variables, which use the letter S. I guess if I want to be more accurate, I will say the number S, because the S is representing a variable, which is a number. Okay, here we have belt graphics. We have the layerings of belt graphics. Why are there two for each? Because I have to have them for both players. And they didn't take up too much room. I still have 72 bytes of space left, but it's right on that precipice where if I do anything at all, then it will try to take up one extra page for space, which isn't there. And so 72 minus whatever, 256, it will tell me, hey, 144 bytes, you're 144 bytes over your 8th bank limit. So I am at my graphics limit as far as I know, but because it's right on the very edge and there's some gaps in it, I could probably stack things a little bit different and free up some space. I'm happy with the way it is now though. Okay, so that's the first images of the belts. This last one is a chair. These are the ropes when you're outside the ring. These are the spectators that kind of hop up and down. Our play field, the outside of the ring play field, which is used for the left side and right side outside the ring. The screen is drawn, then ring F. Again, adjusters and modifiers based on the level, based on whether it's a champion match or not, based on whether S is being used. I can actually look this up real quick and see. I ate some food. That's why I'm kind of hiccuping, gurgling, and or belching. So that's where I'm at with that. I had 3 massive sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits with mayonnaise and ketchup. And yes, every bit of that was vegan. Vegan biscuits with vegan spicy sausage with vegan eggs that are like folded imitation eggs that taste and look absolutely exactly in every way like eggs. A slice of vegan cheese, vegan mayonnaise, vegan ketchup, vegan dollar bill, y'all. I would take the Pepsi challenge to make what I just ate and give it to anyone and tell me you thought it was vegan or not. There's no way anyone could ever know, because I've had this stuff before and I know this tasted absolutely exactly the same as any other sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit I ever had before. So yeah, they got it. They got it down now. So S equals 2 is your story intro, and S equals 3 is your versus intro. So where that says S equals 2, S equals 3, and then all those little X, Y coordinates and colors for the players and stuff, that's got that versus sign mixed in. If it's 4, now at the bottom it says if S equals 4, S equals 5. Those all go right along with that extra variable. Okay, so then we have Go Sub Wrestler 1B. That's if we're on outside of the ring and you're grabbing the second group of graphics for the wrestler. Okay, here we have the announcers. This is the announcers with their little mouths opened. And actually the way I've done it is, when the first one happens, one announcer's mouth is open and the other isn't. And when the second graphic happens, the other announcer's mouth is open and the other one isn't. Okay, so they're talking. And we have graphics that relate to the back of the screen. Just camera, probably camera graphics. And we have the next play field. This is the layer that goes on top of the other one to give the letterings, the edge of the ring, the foreground, stuff like that. I might even be able to shrink this even more or get rid of it altogether. I like the way it is now, and so it looks good. Now, we have some stuff here. If it's L0, in other words, if you're not playing the game yet, it's just on the beginning screen, go to Picker. Picker is to choose what character you're going to be using. S2, story entrance, versus Picker, which is the one all the moves are being programmed through after that runs. And then L4, L6, versus control, and then controls. So if you're outside the ring to the right or to the left, and it's a versus game, then this guy is the one that's going to be used the most. And if it's not a versus game, i.e. it's beyond level 0, and you're done with your character entrances or picking your characters, we'll go to controls. Alright, now we're looking at the wrestlers. This is all of your color codes for every wrestler, where the missiles are put to have extra details on their faces or bodies, and the color of the first part and the sizes. The sizes are used to regulate the width of the missile. But if I wanted to, I could switch the size and make a wrestler twice as wide or 4 times as wide. I don't really like how that looks. It makes them look really monstrous and gigantic, and it would totally change so many aspects of how the game works were I to do that. So would it give me more diverse characters? Yes. Would it mess up the game? Probably. So that's kind of out of the question right now. We have 12 different wrestlers. Okay. Now, why are there 2 rows? Well, the missile locations change. Okay, so what I might do later, just to make all of this shorter, is get rid of the color and the sizes unless the size actually changes too. In most instances, the colors and sizes are the same, and all that changes is the missile location. And so I could delete all of the player colors, and then the player colors and missile locations would happen here. But if the character is on the other side of the screen so that the body is reflected, the missile change would be updated. So that's one thing that to be tried for freeing up more code, taking up less space. We have the first wrestler graphic. And if you notice, you can look here, this is the boots, knee pads, trunks, body details, and the hair and face, like eyes and mouth. Those are all extra details. So D0 is your first wrestler graphic. In this game, I've chosen to have the first player controller control the player 1 sprite, which is actually the second sprite. The player 2 controller controls the player 0 sprite. Okay? And with regards to the story mode, the computer could be controlling one or the other based on which wrestler you choose. And so that's a little more complicated. Getting all of the moves done, all the animations done and stuff, and then dealing with the computer, I guess, fake AI groupings, which will take up less space than the controls, because you'll just be dealing with numbers. It'll be, if the random generator does this, then the variables do this. So it will be easier, in effect, to do that. Okay, well, it does take up more cycles though, because using the random number generator takes up more cycles than most of the other little things that you're doing in the game. Okay, so D0 we can look up here and see. That's D0 player 1 is just your character standing there. Okay, then D2 is the feet apart and also 1 step. D4 is a punch shape, but it's also used for a lot of other stuff. We have, it looks like squatting, the arms up, splash move, that's flipped upside down. Could be for falling or for being suplexed or pile drived or all kinds of stuff, being thrown, maybe doing a front handspring, I don't know, it could be used for a lot of stuff. All of these frames have multiple uses, and I sat down and thought, what can I use this shape for, what can I use this shape for, to get as much use out of it as possible. Okay, so as we're going through, those are our sprites for the characters, the first wave of them. Now we have Wrestler 1A, 2, and so this will be Missile 0 and Player 0. That's the second player in the versus mode. It's the character on the right side of the screen. Okay, we have each of those, and they're very similar graphics, but I've changed them just a little bit. And I might go in and change them and tweak them a little bit more before this is completely done, just so that there's a slight bit more difference between the two characters. And that's the first grouping of graphics. Okay. Then here we have the first group of reflections. All of these reflections have to do with the moves that are being done on the screen. Before, the only thing that was here was these top two. If I minus 8 is less than M, I is the x-axis for the player 1 sprite. M is the x-axis for the player 2 sprite. So it's saying if player 1 is to the left of player 2, then player 1 is reflected, but player 2, or player 1 is not reflected, but player 2 is. I've put return to the other bank for each of these because it will make code move faster. Okay, so when it reaches this first line, if it meets this criteria, it's not going to read any more of these other lines before it returns from this loop. And that is faster. If the computer has to read, in other words, if return other bank isn't right here at the end, it will go through every one of these lines checking to see if any of these codes meet the criteria for it to work. Then it will return to the other bank. Okay, so, but then suppose it meets the very first criteria. Then it only reads this line of code. It goes, oh, okay, meets that criteria, meets this criteria, okay. Don't reflect 1, do reflect 2, and then return to the other bank. That is time saved in computing. Okay, so, but then as it's cycling through, as it's going through, it's going to eventually run into something that meets the criteria, and so it returns to the other bank. And so speeding things up is what the goal is here. Even though another thing I can do later is put the most quickest, easiest thing to define to the left. So then it reads, if it's something that in essence never changes, and it's to the left, or it changes very little, the thing that changes the least amount, if that's to the left, then it will go, oh, okay, that's how that is. Then it goes to the next thing and says, oh, wait, that's different. Then it had to read the first part. So the thing that changes the most should probably be the first thing that it reads. Then it can skip that line faster than if it has to go through the entire code to reach a point that makes it skip the line. So in this particular case, it might be better to have I minus 8 less than M right here, because that's something that will immediately be testable. is I minus 8 less than M? And then if it is, then it can keep going through the code. So I'll probably switch these, and that will make this line slightly faster. And you want to do that. Think of reading the line yourself, and then what makes you move out of there faster. And then that's what the computer is going to move out of the line faster. It's eliminating possibilities. Okay, so but in the case here, because we're dealing with S first through the entire line, once it reaches here, it goes, is S less than 10? Well, there are only 2 lines here where S is going to be less than 10. So it reaches there, oh yes, S is less than 10. Okay, well then is I less than M? Yes, now it's already met its criteria, it acts out this line and returns. So suppose it goes, is S less than 10? Yes, it is. Is I less than M? No, it's not. Then it goes to this next line, it starts to read, and then it goes, oh wait, it is to the other side of it, okay. Then it does the rest of this. And in all honesty, because it has to be one or the other, this line, this thing here, could probably be taken out. And that would be perfectly fine. Then it will read this, and then if it doesn't make it past this part, it will go ahead and do, oh, but S is still less than 10. It will skip over this and just do this and return. And that would be that much faster because it doesn't have to check this. So I can go ahead and delete this part right here because it will only be one or the other. And it will speed it up. Then I've put the S in order of value. But down here, of course, I have S equals 11, S equals 10. These need to be moved up here under S18 and 19. So this has to be sorted out. All of these other things have been plugged in to work with the moves as they're being done. So because 11 and 10 directly relate to grappling, and that's going to be something that happens constantly, this should be higher up right under this on the list. Then it can find that and immediately jump out, and it doesn't have to count through every one of these to reach this at the end. So that's one change, another change that will have to be made. As I'm going through, now here's the second wrestler, wrestler 1B, all the colors, the sprites. Here we can see it's the body color and the face. There are going to be places where colors overlap here, and that's where we're going to get our third combined color that makes these 3 colored sprites. And it's all the same numbers to correspond. Now if the sizes, here's a case, there was an extra line at the top of this that was empty. To save space, I deleted that line, and then I told it, take 1 off of the Y location. So that way the sprite still lines up, but it takes up less space. So if all you're putting is a pair of boots on somebody, and the character is 16 pixels tall, and the boots are 5 pixels tall, then you would say adjust it by 11 on the Y-axis, and then cut off all that necessary space on your sprite to free up space. Right? That's what's been done here. This, I took 2 off of it because the hair is probably 2, and it comes up and it's not combined with the head of the other in that particular case. So then J minus 2. That's the Y location. You see it all. Here's 7. That means there was 7 empty lines at the top of this sprite. And that's almost, combined with the 1 on the other one, that is an entire 8x8 sprite that would have been blank space just being used up. So then I said minus 7. This is shifted 7 so that it still fits where it's supposed to, overlapping the other sprite. That's why you'll notice that none of these sprites has empty space. This one does because it has to. Okay, but other than that, they'll line right up perfectly. Now we have our second wrestler, And you can see it's the body color, the head, and all that stuff, only for the other wrestler, player 0. And we're cycling through it, all of the different moves that it could be, and the reflections in exactly the same order. Has to be done again because it's the second draw screen. Now we have bank 4, our picker. This is which wrestler will you pick if it's a one-player video game, one-player game. It's only using the first joystick, not both. In this loop, if the second player fire button is pressed, it will prepare it to then go to the versus mode selection screen. That changes it. Here we have the versus picker. This invites the other player controller to move things, and then we have an extra variable N that is controlling the right side player that you're choosing. Okay, so you move left and right, it changes this variable -1 or +1. The variable then has limits. If it's too high, then it loops back around to the other wrestler. That's how you're picking the wrestler that you want to choose. I've set it up so that to choose each wrestler and to start the match, to keep it from where having the other character, the other player being able to kind of force you into having the wrong character or vice versa, you have to press the player 1 fire and the player 2 fire at the same time to start the versus match. I like to keep things simple. You don't have to get up and touch anything on the video game system to play this video game. You're not going to go, wait a minute, something's wrong, and then you have to figure out to flip this switch from A to B, or flip this switch, or hit select, or hit reset, or anything like that. Put the game in, start it, reset resets it, and the 2 joystick buttons do all the rest. They start the game in 1-player mode, they start the selection process for 2 players, and together they start the 2-player game versus, after you've chosen your character. Here we have the story entrance segmentation. This can be modified to curtail, it can be curtailed for each individual wrestler, or for have differences for certain wrestlers. Like I'd like to have the Ultimate Warrior wrestler run to the ring like the Ultimate Warrior did. I thought that was really cool back in the day. Or have a wrestler maybe do some punching or raise their arms more than once. And the crowd, I'd like to interact and get louder and change their reactions based on what the wrestler's doing. So that's all right there in that story entrance. Versus story entrance, that's going to be, obviously for each of them. So then both of them show each of them, though. Very similar. Controls. This is the first group of controls. A lot of changes have been made, though, in the versus controls that haven't been applied to the 1-player controls yet. But we have the same groupings down here that go along with it. Grapple, hitting the ropes from the left if you're player 0, hitting the ropes to the right if you're player 0. I'll go ahead and skip down, though, to the versus ones since they're more complete. Versus controls. Now we have all of these extra things added. If you can see here, player 1 running, player 2 running. Here we have them grappling with each other. The variable set for it, joystick controls. Now the joystick controls are at the bottom, and some of the variables that will keep you from reaching the joystick controls by leaving the loop early are above it. That's because you don't want controller inputs from one of the players while they're being body slammed. You don't want them to be able to move the character around or add a bunch of variables that will do nothing while a controlled animation loop is happening. Okay. Then we have, in a different bank, the versus mode stuff. We have grappling, which can lead to throwing them into the ropes, which leads to them running. Or body slams are what have been done so far. 18 and 19 are the body slam segments. 87 and 89, 88 and 86 are the running parts. So then we have body slam 0, body slam 1, that's based on which character is body slamming. We have them running into each other, which I've called brick wall. We have ropes left, that's bouncing, player 0 bouncing off the left side rope, player 0 bouncing off the right side ropes, player 1 left side rope, player 1 right side rope, player 1 running to the right, player 0 running to the left, or well, player 0 running to the right, player 0 running to the left, player 1 to the right, 1 to the left, both running to the right, both running to the left, both running towards each other, and both running towards each other have a capability of colliding, so there's a collision in there. We have moves for the other character if they're doing a move where after it has started the loop of animation for the move, the other character can still move around and do things. And so that accepts the movement, whereas it would have normally been blocked out. It invites collisions still in case a collision happens between the two characters, and it loops around, allowing the ring to come back through to affect the changes, collect up the variables from the controls in that loop. And we have 1 moves and 0 moves. That's it. Now we're up to bank 8. We have used up some room here. Only 246 bytes left in bank 1. It's almost full. 1,183 bytes left in bank 2. It's getting eaten up. Bank 3, 1,067 bytes. Bank 4, 2,062. Bank 5, 2,336. Bank 6, 3,080. Then we have in the 7th bank, where most of the moves are being created, 761 bytes left, which is low. Meaning, moves are going to be in 2 different banks for each character. Meaning that for the total moves, 4 banks will have a say in those, and then where they go to create the loop for the banks will be different once it's full. Okay, so I've said enough here. Let's go ahead and compile and run it again just for fun. Probably the most that I've said about the coding process in most of my recent videos. I really love picking let's see, this guy. He reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior, more like the Dingo Warrior, and then the Hulk character on the right. So we'll go ahead and, now I'm hitting the first and second player fire buttons at the same time. I'm going to zoom in slightly. Oh, first thing that happened is it messed up. That's because one of the collisions needs a little barrier added to the right side, so that if the right side character is moving towards the left side one, they'll collide before the sprites actually hit each other. It's all fine-tuning. Okay, here we go. Here we got our body slam. Let's have this guy do a body slam. There we go. Now I've noticed that occasionally there is some graphics on the top here when they do moves. The line at the very bottom, right here in front of the crowd, seems to be manipulated sometimes when the sprites do things. I might go ahead and just blank out the very bottom 2 thin lines there and just see if that fixes that problem. this is a really tight squeeze where sprites are almost ready to overlap, and it's causing some artifacts, I guess would be what to call them. No sound effects yet. Of course, I want a loud slapping sound effect when that happens there. I might actually have the body slam throw them a little further away too. So okay, progress has been made. It's going to take some sorting out how this is all going to work, and there are a couple of little glitchy things happening here and there to work out. But we have moves, we have grappling, we have running, we can throw each other into the ropes. Things are happening, things are coming together. Alright, so thanks to anyone who's watching. I've been, I don't know, kind of silent lately in the emails and talking and chitty-chatting and stuff. I feel like people are kind of distancing themselves, and you know, maybe that's, you know, things going on in your own lives and stuff. That's totally fine with me. You know, I'm doing this regardless of whether people like me or not, or want to be friends with me or not. So that has little or no sway on whether I'm going to program a wrestling video game for the Atari. But you know, I do really like chatting with people and emailing and having friends and stuff like that. I know my two biggest fans will always be here, though. That's my two kids, and they're watching me do this, and it's been a lot of fun. So anybody who watches, likes, subscribes, links, comments, you know, whatever, I really appreciate it. It helps a lot. And consider trying out Yeet Fighter, and be ready for this wrestling game to come out in the near future. Thanks a lot.